You're interrupting my dinner. The words left my mouth before my brain could stop them. Every single person in this restaurant had scattered like roaches when the men in black suits walked in. But I wasn't about to let some gangster ruin my perfectly good galbi. The man standing before my table didn't flinch. If anything, his dark eyes widened slightly. Surprise, maybe? He was tall, impeccably dressed in what had to be a custom-tailored suit, and had an aura that screamed danger. Intricate tattoos peeked from his collar, crawling up his neck like dark vines. "Did you hear me?" he asked, his English accented but clear. His voice was low, controlled, the kind of voice used to being obeyed. "I heard you just fine," I replied, setting down my chopsticks deliberately. "And I'm telling you, you're interrupting my dinner. I don't care what business you have here. But I was here first." His men, 3 of them flanking him like shadows, tensed. One reached inside his jacket, but the boss, because that's clearly what he was, raised a hand. They froze. "You don't know who I am." It wasn't a question. Should I? I met his gaze steadily. My heart was hammering, sure. But I'd learned a long time ago that predators could smell fear. You show weakness. You become prey. "Look, I've had a long week. My reports are overdue. My apartment's AC is broken. And this is the first decent meal I've had in days. So unless you're planning to shoot me, which would be terrible for business in a place this nice, I'd appreciate it if you conducted your meeting somewhere else." For a long moment, he just stared at me. Then, impossibly, the corner of his mouth twitched. "And Minjae," he said. "Kang Minjae." "Isaiah Jackson, nice to meet you. Now, if you'll excuse me, sit with us." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "You're so brave," Minjae said, and there was something dangerous in his smile now. Or so foolish, I can't decide which. "Either way, you interest me. Finish your dinner at our table." "That's not really—" "I insist." The smile disappeared, and I don't like repeating myself. This was a mistake. Everything in me screamed that this was a mistake, but I'd already played my hand, and backing down now would be worse than accepting. So I stood, grabbed my plate, and followed Kang Min-jae to the private room in the back. The next hour was the strangest of my life. Min-jae's associates barely spoke, just watched me like I was some exotic animal in a zoo. Min-jae himself asked questions. What brought me to Seoul? How long I'd been here? What I did for work? I answered honestly, mostly. I worked in financial analysis for Hansung Corporation. I'd been in Korea for 8 months. I liked the food, loved the culture, struggled with the language. "You're not afraid," he observed, pouring me tea with movements that were surprisingly graceful. "Of what?" "Of me." "Should I be?" "Everyone else is." I shrugged. "I grew up in Detroit, spent 4 years in the Army. I've seen scary. You're just a guy having dinner." That made him laugh, a real laugh, not the cold chuckle from before. "Just a guy, I like that." When dinner ended, he had one of his men drive me home. I should have refused, but Seoul's subway would be closed soon, and I wasn't stupid enough to insult him twice in one night. "We'll see each other again, Isaiah Jackson," Min-jae said, as I got out of the black sedan. "I don't think that's a good idea." I wasn't asking. That was 3 weeks ago. True to his word, Kang Min-jae had made himself a fixture in my life. He showed up at the coffee shop where I got my morning Americano. He was at the gym when I went for my evening workout. Once I found him browsing the English bookstore I frequented, looking completely out of place among the romance novels and self-help books. "This is stalking," I told him during our 5th coincidental meeting. "This is interest," he corrected. "In what, exactly?" In you. He said it simply, like it was obvious. You're different from anyone I've met. Because I'm not terrified of you? Because you see me as human. That stopped me. There was something vulnerable in the way he said it. Something that didn't match the dangerous crime boss exterior. I found myself softening, despite my better judgment. Look, I said carefully, I don't know what you want from me, but I'm not getting involved in whatever business you're in. I'm not asking you to. Then what are you asking? Minjae was quiet for a long moment. We were standing outside the bookstore, Seoul's neon lights reflecting off rain-slicked streets. He looked almost uncertain, which seemed impossible for someone who commanded such fear. Have coffee with me, he finally said. Not the kind where I coincidentally show up. The kind where we make plans. Like a date? If you want to call it that. Every logical part of my brain screamed no. This man was clearly involved in organized crime. He was dangerous, unpredictable, and getting close to him was asking for trouble. But there was something in his eyes, a loneliness I recognized, because I'd felt it myself, being so far from home in a country where I'd always be an outsider. One coffee, I heard myself say, and you answer my questions honestly. Deal. We met 2 days later at a quiet cafe in Gangnam. Minjae arrived without his entourage for the first time, looking somehow younger in a simple black sweater and jeans. We talked for 3 hours. I learned he'd inherited his position after his father's murder when he was 19. That he'd never wanted this life but had no choice. It was lead or die. That he liked classical music, read poetry in secret, and had a dog named Barum that he doted on. You're not what I expected, I admitted. What did you expect? A monster, honestly. He smiled sadly. I am a monster, Isaiah. Don't mistake moments of humanity for innocence. I've done terrible things. We've all done things we're not proud of. Not like mine. I believed him. But I also believed that people were more than their worst moments. Maybe that made me naive, but I'd rather be naive than cynical. Our meetings became regular. Twice a week, then 3 times, then almost daily. We never talked about his work, and I never asked. Instead, we discussed music, books, philosophy. He taught me Korean phrases beyond basic survival conversation. I introduced him to American jazz and Detroit-style pizza, which he pretended to hate but always finished. I was falling for him. It was stupid and reckless and completely inevitable. Then everything changed. I came home one evening to find my apartment door ajar. Training kicked in immediately. I grabbed my phone, ready to call the police, when I heard voices inside. Harsh, speaking rapid Korean I couldn't fully follow. They were ransacking my place, looking for something. Company files, maybe. I'd noticed some irregularities in our accounts recently, transactions that didn't quite add up. I should have run, should have called for help. Instead, I did something incredibly stupid. I walked inside, looking for something. 3 men whirled around. They weren't Minjae's people. I'd learned to recognize his crew by now. These guys had different tattoos, different energy. Younger, sloppier, more aggressive. The leader barked something in Korean. I caught maybe half of it. Something about park and staying quiet and teaching lessons. I don't know what you're looking for, I said carefully, hands visible, non-threatening. But this is my home. You need to leave. He pulled a knife. Okay, so we're doing this. Muscle memory from my army days took over. When he lunged, I sidestepped, caught his wrist, twisted. The knife clattered to the floor. His friends rushed me. I got one with an elbow to the solar plexus, but the third guy got behind me, arm around my throat. I drove my heel down on his instep, hard. He loosened his grip just enough. I threw my head back, felt the satisfying crunch of his nose breaking, and he dropped. The leader was scrambling for the knife. I kicked it away and grabbed a lamp instead, swinging it like a club. "Get out!" They ran. I locked the door behind them, adrenaline making my hands shake. My phone buzzed. Minjay. "Are you home?" His text read. "Yeah, just had some uninvited guests." My phone rang immediately. "What kind of guests?" Minjay's voice was sharp, dangerous. "3 guys. Looking for something in my apartment. They left when I convinced them to." Convinced them? Persuasively. Silence. Then, "I'm sending someone to you. Don't argue. They're Park Dae-jung's men, and if they know where you live..." "Who's Park Dae-jung?" "A problem. My problem, which apparently just became yours. Stay there." He hung up before I could protest. 20 minutes later, Han Ji-woo, Min-jae's right-hand man, arrived with 2 others. They swept my apartment, professional and thorough. Ji-woo was tall, quiet, scary in a different way than Min-jae. Less fire, more ice. "Boss wants you at the penthouse," Ji-woo said in careful English. "I'm fine here." That wasn't a request. I wanted to argue, but I also wasn't stupid. If these Park people knew where I lived and were willing to break in while I was home, staying here was asking for trouble. The penthouse was exactly what I'd expected. Expensive, minimalist, with a view of Seoul that probably cost more than I'd make in a lifetime. Min-jae was waiting, still in his business suit, phone pressed to his ear. He was speaking rapid-fire Korean, his voice cold and commanding. When he saw me, something in his expression shifted. He ended the call abruptly and crossed the room in 3 strides. "Are you hurt?" "I'm fine. What's going on, Min-jae?" "Sit down." "No, talk to me. Who was in my apartment and why?" He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. "Park Dae-jung runs a rival organization. He's been trying to undermine me for months, and apparently, he's decided you're a good pressure point." "Why would I be a pressure point?" Min-jae looked at me like I was being deliberately dense. "Because I care about you, Isaiah. Because everyone in our world has noticed that I've been spending time with you. Because you're a weakness I've stupidly allowed myself." The words hung between us. "A weakness," I repeated slowly. "Yes. Is that all I am to you?" "No." He closed his eyes. "No. You're everything I shouldn't want and everything I can't stop thinking about. You're the first person in 10 years who's looked at me and seen something other than a monster. You're..." He stopped, jaw tight. I crossed to him, closing the distance. "I'm what?" "Someone I could love," he said quietly. "If I were someone capable of love..." "You are capable of it. You don't know what I've done." "You're right, I don't. But I know who you are when you're with me. I know the man who brings me books he thinks I'd like, who listens to jazz even though he prefers classical, who looks at me like I'm the only real thing in a fake world." "Isaiah, I quit my job today," I interrupted. "I found proof that Hansung is laundering money. I don't know for whom, but given what just happened, I'm guessing it's connected to your world somehow. I reported it internally and walked out." Min-jae stared at me. "You what?" "I'm not going to be part of that, but I'm also not going to pretend I don't have feelings for you. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to be honest with me, completely honest, about what you do and who these people are, and then I'm going to decide if I can live with it. And if I can, we're going to figure this out together. This isn't a fairy tale, Isaiah. I can't just leave this life. I'm not asking you to. I'm asking you to let me in." For a long moment, he didn't move. Then he took my hand, his grip tight, almost desperate. "My father built this organization from nothing," he began. "Park Daijung's family murdered him when I was 19, tried to take everything. I had to be harder, colder, more ruthless than anyone just to survive. I've hurt people, killed people. I've done things that would make you hate me. Try me." So he told me. Everything. The violence, the moral compromises, the blood on his hands. He didn't spare himself, didn't try to justify it. Just laid it all out like evidence at a trial. When he finished, his hand was still in mine. "I don't condone what you've done," I said carefully, "but I understand why you did it. And I think you're trying to be better than what this world made you. You're too good for this, for me. That's not your decision to make." I pulled him closer. "I see you, Minjai. All of you. And I'm not running." When he kissed me, it felt like falling and flying at the same time. Like every careful wall I'd built around my heart just crumbled. His hands framed my face like I was something precious, something worth protecting. "I'll keep you safe," he promised against my lips. "Whatever it takes. We'll keep each other safe," I corrected. That night, we talked until dawn. About his plans to eventually transition the organization toward legitimate business. About my dreams of opening a community center. About the possibility of building something good from something dark. It wouldn't be easy. Nothing worthwhile ever was. But for the first time in years, I felt like I was exactly where I was supposed to be. "You're making us weak." Kang Sung-ho, Minjai's uncle, stood in the penthouse living room, like an executioner pronouncing sentence. 6 months had passed since that night when everything changed. 6 months of gradually restructuring the organization, of Minjai slowly distancing himself from the most violent operations. 6 months of us building something real together. And apparently, 6 months too long for the old guard. "I'm making us sustainable," Minjai countered, his voice level, but his hand finding mine under the table. "The world is changing. We change with it, or we die. Your father would be ashamed. My father is dead because he refused to evolve." Minjai stood, and there was steel in his spine. "I won't make the same mistake." Sung-ho's gaze slid to me, cold and assessing. "This is his influence. This foreigner who knows nothing of our ways." "Careful," Minjai said softly, and the temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. But I squeezed his hand, stood as well. "Mr. Kang is right," I said, and Minjai's head snapped toward me in surprise. "I don't know your ways. I don't understand the history, the blood debts, the old obligations. But I do know business. And I know that the path you're on leads nowhere good. Yua Minjai is trying to build something that lasts beyond violence and fear. You've been with us 6 months and think you can lecture us on our business." Sung-ho's smile was ugly. "No, but I can read a financial statement, and your current model is unsustainable. You're hemorrhaging money, making enemies faster than allies, and one good prosecution will bring everything down. Minjai's trying to save you all." Sung-ho turned back to Minjai. "You have 1 week to end this foolishness. Send him away, return to the old ways, or I'll call a council vote." When he left, Minjai pulled me close, his heartbeat rapid against my ear. "He's going to move against us?" I said quietly. "I know." "What do we do?" Minjai pulled back, cupped my face in his hands. "I get you somewhere safe, and I handle this." "No." "Isaiah." "No," I repeated firmly. "We're partners. That means we face this together. You taught me that the organization respects strength, So let's show them strength. Together. What followed was the most intense week of my life. Using my financial analysis background, I helped Minjai trace Sung-ho's secret accounts, evidence of embezzlement, of deals made behind the family's back. Jiwoo, who'd become an unlikely ally, gathered testimonies from members loyal to Minjai. Sung-ho made his move on the 6th day, orchestrating an attack meant to look like Park Dae-jung's work. But we'd anticipated it, prepared for it. When his hired men came for us at the community center site we'd purchased, we were ready. I'd like to say it was clean, that nobody got hurt. But that would be a lie. Min-jae's men fought Sung-ho's, and I found myself back to back with the man I loved, fighting for our future. When it was over, Sung-ho was in custody. Not police custody, but the council's. The evidence we'd gathered was presented, irrefutable. He'd been stealing from the family for years, weakening them from within while blaming Min-jae's reforms. The council voted unanimously. Sung-ho was exiled, stripped of his position and protection. Min-jae consolidated power, but on new terms. The organization would transition, slowly, carefully, toward legitimate business. Not everyone agreed. Some left, but more stayed, seeing the wisdom in survival over pride. 2 months later, we stood in a small ceremony hall. Jiwoo was there, uncomfortable in his formal suit. Marcus, my best friend from Detroit, who'd flown in, kept grinning like an idiot. So were a handful of others who'd earned our trust. The officiant was speaking Korean, then English, binding our lives together officially. I never thought I'd have this, Min-jae whispered during the exchange of rings. Never thought I deserved it. You deserve to be happy, I whispered back. We both do. I promise you, he said, slipping the ring onto my finger. I'll spend every day becoming the man you see when you look at me. I promise you, I replied. I'll stand beside you every day, through whatever comes. We're building something better together. When we kissed, Marcus whooped. Jiwoo actually smiled. Now, standing in the community center we'd finally opened, funded by Min-jae's wealth, run by my vision, I watched kids play basketball, teenagers working on computers, families getting help with job applications. This was what we'd fought for, what we'd risked everything to build. Min-jae came up behind me, arms wrapping around my waist. They're staring, he murmured. Let them stare. Not afraid of scandal? I fell in love with a mafia boss. Scandal is relative. He laughed, the sound free and genuine. 2 years ago, I'd met a man everyone feared. Now I knew him as someone capable of extraordinary tenderness, of growth, of love. Was he perfect? No. Was our life easy? Definitely not. Min-jae still operated in gray areas, still made hard choices I didn't always agree with. But he was trying, genuinely trying, to be better than what his world had made him. I love you, he said quietly, just for me. I love you too. A teenager called out, asking Min-jae to settle an argument about basketball rules. He kissed my temple and went, engaging with the kids like he'd been doing this his whole life. I watched him, my heart full. Everyone had run from Kang Min-jae. Everyone had seen the monster and fled. But I'd stayed, I'd looked deeper, and I'd found someone worth fighting for, worth building a future with, worth loving. Our story wasn't conventional. It wasn't always pretty, but it was ours, and it was real. And it was just beginning. If you enjoyed Isaiah and Min-jae's story, please like, comment, and subscribe for more LGBTQ plus romance stories featuring diverse characters and unexpected love. What kind of romance would you like to see next? Drop your suggestions below.